This is not a fairy tale. This is not a horror movie. This is a truth recorded in human bones, literally. When famine struck, when an entire tribe stood on the line between life and death, ancient humans did things that even modern scientists pause before writing about. Those things were not acts of savagery. They were survival decisions. And once you understand why they did what they did, you will never look at human history the same way again. Archaeologists are still debating a terrifying question to this day. When food ran out completely, when there was nothing left to hunt, nothing left to gather, and nothing left to eat, what did ancient humans do to keep their tribe from disappearing from the face of the earth? The answer is not one thing, not two things, but a chain of dark decisions layered one upon another, each layer darker than the last. In 2011, archaeologists excavating Gough's cave in England discovered human bones dating back 14,700 years. But these were not ordinary bones. The bones bore marks from stone tools, deliberate, careful cuts identical to the way meat is scraped from animal bones for consumption. Scientists even discovered human skulls that had been hollowed out and used as drinking vessels. This was not a ritual. This was a sign of extreme famine. And this was not an isolated case. In Belgium, at Goyet cave, researchers found evidence that Neanderthals processed the bodies of their own kind 45,000 years ago, cutting away flesh, breaking bones, and extracting marrow. In Kenya, a tibia fragment dating back 1.45 million years bears cut marks made by stone tools. This is the oldest evidence ever discovered of cannibalism in human evolutionary history. Let that number sink in. 1.45 million years. Most of us think of hunger as skipping a meal, or going a few days without enough food. Prehistoric famine was nothing like that. There were no supermarkets, no national food reserves, no aid trucks delivering supplies. When the climate changed suddenly, when an ice age arrived, when droughts lasted for years, when animal herds migrated in a different direction, an entire tribe could go for weeks without a single source of food. Children died first, the elderly died next. The young and healthy watched and waited for their turn. Under those circumstances, every decision changed. The first decision: leave behind the elderly and the weak. Anthropologists have documented this among many hunter-gatherer societies around the world. When food became scarce, tribes were forced to move quickly in search of new resources. The elderly could not keep up. The sick could not keep up. Not because the tribe did not love them, but because if everyone stayed behind and waited, everyone would die. This was the coldest calculation in human history. Sacrifice one person to save 10. The second decision: kill newborn infants immediately after birth. This may sound unbelievable, but archaeological studies suggest that during the Stone Age, the rate of infant killing shortly after birth ranged from 15 to 50%. Not because ancient humans lacked maternal love, but because a newborn required complete breastfeeding for years and a nursing mother could not become pregnant again. Under conditions of extreme resource scarcity, a fragile newborn could mean the death of both the mother and the older children who also needed to be fed. This is a decision whose pain no language is powerful enough to describe. The third decision: eat the dead. This is what scientists call survival cannibalism, consuming human flesh for survival. And archaeological evidence suggests that it occurred far more often than we would like to believe. But this is where most documentaries stop. The truth is far more complicated. Scientists discovered that not all of the evidence points to famine. Some human remains were processed carefully, not hastily as one would expect during starvation, but almost as part of a ritual. What does that mean? Ancient humans sometimes consumed the dead not because they were starving, but because they believed that by doing so, they could absorb the strength, wisdom, or spirit of the deceased. The line between desperation and spirituality in the prehistoric world was never clear. And this did not happen in just one place, or in just one era. In Spain, El Sidrón cave contains the bones of 12 Neanderthals, all showing signs of being processed for meat and bone marrow. Scientists believe they were a family: grandparents, parents, and children, and that they consumed one another to survive the winter. In ancient China, historical records from thousands of years ago often described famine with a horrifying phrase: people eating people. And in 1972, a Uruguayan rugby team crashed in the Andes Mountains. The survivors, most of them devout Catholics, were forced to make the same decision that ancient humans had made millions of years earlier. When you stand face to face with death, with no food, no hope, and no escape, the human survival instinct crosses every boundary we once believed was untouchable. This is not a weakness of humanity. This is the most extreme survival power nature has ever created. But here is what nobody tells you. When scientists examined more closely the prehistoric communities that were forced to make these decisions, they discovered something astonishing. Those tribes did not fall apart. They did not collapse. They did not disappear. They survived. And after the famine, those tribes often became more united, more organized, and more sophisticated in the way they found and preserved food. The darkest decisions in human history, those very decisions forged our adaptability and resilience as a species. Ancient humans did not do these things because they were cruel. They did them because they loved the people who remained enough to endure what seemed impossible to endure. That is a truth history often refuses to state directly. The next time you open your refrigerator and see it filled with food, stop for a second. Your ancestors once stood before decisions you would never want to think about. They did things that modern language does not have enough words to judge fairly. And it is because of those decisions, no matter how dark they were, that you are sitting here today, watching this video, breathing. Civilization was not built on purity. It was built on survival, on choices where there was no good option, only a less terrible one. And ancient humans, with nothing but their bare hands and their instincts, made the right choices enough times for humanity to survive until today. That was not darkness. It was love in its most primitive form.